Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
And we're live on a slightly more cluttered Minisode today. My girlfriend's taking her finals in this office for law school, and she put my drawers right next to my desk. So she's basically made a mega desk. And if you've ever seen The Office, you respect that reference and you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't know the reference that I'm talking about and you haven't seen The Office, you can go fuck yourself. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Minisode number 34 on the More Than Fitness podcast. And today we are going to talk about 6 ways to lose fat faster. Now, I know this sounds like a very click-baity title, and it somewhat is. However, everything in here that I'm going to say is 100% true, and you can lose fat faster if you do these things. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet today, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. A lot of these are going to be obvious, but then sometimes the most obvious ones are also the ones that we're not doing because we tend to major in the minors and we get so caught up in the newest diet, the newest supplement, the newest way to build motivation and be disciplined and, yada, yada, yada. But the basics work and the fundamentals work, and the basics are the basics for a reason, right? Some of these are going to be the basics, but for each one, I'm going to try and give you a quick tip on each one as well to make it more practical. But if you do these 6 things, I can promise you, you will lose fat faster. And on the flip side, if you do these things, you'll probably also gain muscle faster and bulk more efficiently if you're trying to go the other direction. So this isn't necessarily just for fat loss. You'll get better results in general. Okay, number 1. This is not going to be a huge shocker. You need to track your diet and exercise. Again, I don't think you should track your entire life, right? I don't think that is a right way to live. I haven't tracked my food in quite some time, but if you've never tracked your food, I think that you need to go through a period of 8 to 12 to 16 weeks or so, possibly even longer. The reason why I haven't tracked recently is because I spent years tracking. So I'm very well aware of what is in certain foods, the macronutrients, the calories, the micronutrients, portion sizes, all that kind of stuff. I can guesstimate very accurately. But honestly, the main reason you need to track your diet and exercise is just to keep you accountable and keep you in check on a regular basis. Right? That's the biggest thing that tracking does, is it builds your awareness in what you're doing or what you're not doing. So the first thing that you need to do is track your diet and exercise, and you can do this very simply with your diet. You can do MyFitnessPal, you can do Mike's Macros, and another app is FitGenie. All of these are great tools to start with, and even if you don't know what the hell you're doing, just tracking in general is going to tell you a lot about, again, what you're doing or not doing. And I have plenty of articles on my website, mattmcleod.org/articles, if you want to check those out. If you're like, I don't know where to start, I don't know this. Actually, I'll throw some in the description to help you get started on that. And for your exercise, again, it's these simple things that we know works. We're just not doing it consistently enough. So with your exercise, tracking your at least maybe one movement, the bare minimum, one movement for your upper body, one movement for your lower body, right? So this could be the squat and the bench press, or right now, given things, push-ups, right? Tracking how many reps you're doing each week in push-ups, or the amount of weight that you're doing with squats and the reps and the sets over time. What I would do is pick 1 to 2 main movements, track the weight, sets, and reps for each time. Over time, try and get stronger on that exercise. But it starts with tracking it. Write something down. You don't need a fancy app or anything like that. Pad and pen works perfectly fine. Okay, number 2 is the second part of this, and it's you need to measure something. So tracking alone is not, I think it can have its benefits, but tracking alone will not get you the results, the optimal results that you're looking for. So 6 ways to lose fat faster. If you're trying to lose fat faster, you need to make sure that you're measuring something to know that what you're doing is working or not. And the way that I tell people to do this and what I do with my clients is there's a couple different ways to do this. My favorite one is going to be the body weight scale. So just measuring your weight every single morning before you eat or drink anything and after you use the restroom. That's my favorite way. Again, I know people have their reservations about the scale, but I would recommend to educate yourself on what those fluctuations actually mean. Realize it's just data, and it's really helpful data that you can use to your advantage. But if you don't like the scale, I understand. You can use measurements instead. So body measurements, if you just type in on Google how to measure your body for weight loss or fat loss or something, there's going to be plenty of articles that show you how to do so. Measurements are fine. I think a lot of people might think that is too tedious, but you can look up also, there's different tools to make it a little bit easier. I think Myotape or Orbitape, if you type those in on Amazon, they make measurements a little bit easier. And if you don't feel like measuring, you can always use your belt around your pants or your favorite pants or something. Then you can get a rough estimation of, okay, am I gaining weight? Am I losing weight by the way that those pants feel, because you're used to them fitting a certain way. And probably the most subjective and loose way to measure something is going to be pictures every 4 weeks, right? So for the scale, I would recommend daily, probably about 3 to 4 times a week would be the minimum. For measurements, I would say every 2 weeks would be a good amount. And then pictures every 4 weeks. So do front, side, and back in the same background, the same poses, and the same lighting every single time to make sure that you can actually get an accurate measure over time and compare them. Okay, number 3, you need to get better sleep. I know. This is something that you hear all the damn time, but again, it's something that we're not taking seriously. And if you want to lose fat faster, you're going to have a relentless focus on these basics, and you will actually put in the effort to do better over time. For sleep, again, there's so many different things that I could say. I think the 2 biggest things, maybe 3, I think the temperature of your room is huge, making it pretty cool. I would say below 70 degrees during nighttime would be ideal. But I know for some of you that may not be feasible, but the colder you can get it, I would say the better for the most part. Other than that would be the darkness of the room, making sure that there's not any light, not sleeping with the TV on, things like that would be huge. And if your partner likes to sleep with the TV on, the best purchases I've made for my sleep is going to be an eye mask and earplugs. I know it sounds, if you haven't done it before, it's going to feel weird at first. You're going to feel like you got too much shit going on with your face. But if you can get used to it, I promise you, that's going to be your holy grail to getting better sleep anywhere. If it's hotels, if it's in a car, like no matter what, if you have the earplugs and the eye mask on, you're going to be in good shape. So I recommend that. The temperature of the room, the darkness of the room, and buy some earplugs and eye masks. And then, of course, don't be on electronics for at least 30 minutes before you go to sleep. Reading a book would be much better. Okay, number 4, focus on consistency. And what I mean by this is, honestly, you need to stop focusing so much on the outcome of, like, if you have a goal weight of, like, if you're a male and you're 180 pounds and you want to be 160 pounds or 165 pounds or something like that. If you keep focusing on the outcome, honestly, it's going to keep fucking with your head because you're so concerned on, I need to be this way. I need to be this way. I need to get this. I need to, I need to reach this goal. But instead, what would be much better and what would be more beneficial to you long-term is going to be focusing on process goals instead. So what you do on a daily basis, because again, health and fitness is going to be, it's a long-term goal. You're going to have to do this shit literally forever. So if you have a smaller focus, a more narrow focus on your day-to-day, even your hour-to-hour, meal-to-meal, that's going to benefit you much more than thinking, oh, I need to be this certain way. I need to reach this outcome, because you're going to reach that outcome at some point, right? If you keep being adamant about reaching it, you'll reach it sometime. But then it's like, okay, what's after that? And what's left after that is the habits and the skills that you've built in order to reach that outcome. And that practice, that daily practice of consistency is much more important than reaching that outcome, because those skills, rituals, and habits, those are going to last you a lifetime. So what I would say is screw the outcome. The outcome is good for a goal as far as like a flagstick in a direction that you need to go. But instead, I would try and focus on your day-to-day. What can you do today to make that outcome more likely? And often that starts with just, what am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to eat for dinner? How can I make the healthy choice the easy choice? And in the automated fitness product that I'm coming out with very soon, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this and how to make that consistency way more effortless. So yeah, focusing on consistency, checking the boxes day in and day out, and not worrying so much about the outcome, but just making sure that you're taking the steps you need to on a daily basis is going to be much more important than worrying about actually reaching the outcome. Okay, number 5, this builds and piggybacks off number 4 about consistency. Is a way to be more consistent is to keep your foods and your meal times the same most days out of the week. For me, what this typically means is that every meal and snack is mostly the same except for dinner time, right? That allows me to take the willpower and the confusion out of, what do I need for breakfast? What do I need to eat for lunch? What do I need to eat for, before bed, et cetera, et cetera. All of those are already figured out. All I need to do is worry about dinner for the most part. And that allows you enough structure to remain consistent, because research has been pretty clear that the more consistent you can be with meal times, again, you have to think less. So it takes a lot of the work out of it. Whenever people are dieting or whatever, they think that they need so much variety in their day-to-day, and it's just not true. So figure out some meals that are nutritious, and also meals that you can tolerate, right? That you actually look forward to eating, and stick with that most days, because I promise you that is going to amplify your consistency so much. And the same thing with your meal times. That's going to help you regulate your satiety signals and your hunger signals throughout the day. Just eating at the same times each day, and then making sure that you don't mindlessly snack in between meal times, is going to be huge in terms of your progress. Okay, and lastly, ditch the alcohol. This pains me to say, because you guys know how much I love wine, I love bourbon, etc. I love to get loosey-goosey. I love to have a silly goose time. I love to, I have treats. Alcohol is a treat for me. You get to wind down Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Those are typically my alcohol days. Just a little bit of wine with dinner is my go-to. But the thing is, some of you are not just having a glass of wine with dinner. You're having half a bottle to a whole bottle of wine in one night, or multiple glasses of bourbon. And honestly, the alcohol itself, trust me, the calories add up really quick. But what I'm going to talk about in another minisode is that the alcohol really fucks with your hunger signals the next day, and your just overall mood as well. But of course, also after you drink the alcohol, you're much more susceptible to eat a bunch of shit after the alcohol. And then you're also more susceptible to gaining fat from those meals, also because they're higher calorie. But additional to that is that your body is trying to metabolize the alcohol, get rid of it. And so all that fatty food and salty food and et cetera is just sitting in your stomach waiting to be metabolized as fat. So if you really want to lose fat faster, I highly recommend to ditch the alcohol or limit yourself to 1 to 2 drinks per week. And that's gonna set you straight. Okay, real quick, rapid fire. Recap. Number 1, you need to track your diet and exercise. Number 2, you need to measure something. Number 3, you need to get better sleep. Number 4, you need to focus on consistency, so the process over the outcome. 5, keep your foods and meals the same most days. And then 6, ditch the alcohol. Okay, guys, that's it. Minisode number 34 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening and for watching. See ya.